back to Catholic Conversations. As always, I'm your host, Joelle Zarnowski, and this week we are joined by Father John Manno.
Good to be with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. So you are our vicar for priests here at the diocese, but you're also pastor at Holy Family in Fairmount.
That's it.
So a very, very busy guy. So super excited to have you here today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
What we wanted to talk about with you today is the initiative that's going to be rolling out the week after this episode airs, which is the Disciple Maker Index Survey. That's an initiative of the Called for More program through Catholic Leadership Institute, correct?
Correct.
And so can you give our listeners just a little bit of an explanation about what the Disciple Maker Index, or DMI, is and why it's such an important thing for our parishes to participate in?
Sure. So maybe just a little background on why we're doing this and who Catholic Leadership Institute is.
Yeah.
So if you go back over the past 5 years since COVID, really, I think we all recognize so much has changed in our diocesan family, in our parishes. So we've recognized that, we've realized that, and we've said, how do we, after COVID, after all the synodal stuff that we've been through, which has been excellent, that opportunity to be able to listen and hear people, how do we incorporate that into something special for our entire diocesan family? And so that leads us up to Catholic Leadership Institute, which deals specifically with dioceses around the country, helping them to remain Christ-focused, helping them to focus on what really matters in parishes and pastoral leadership, kind of equipping people and giving them the tools to go be good leaders, but also to help make healthy, vibrant parishes. So these are things we've been talking about for many years, but over the past 5 years, I think we've seen a lot of opportunities to really focus in on those things. Yeah. And so what the Disciple Maker Index is a survey that we're asking all of our parishioners to complete. So all of our parishioners throughout the diocese have the opportunity to complete this survey. It's 95 questions, and it asks them specifically how they live out their discipleship. So how are you living this out? What are you doing? How are you praying? How do you understand the faith? Do you get these major concepts of the faith, different things? The part of it that's really going to help the parishes is, how does your parish help you cultivate a personal relationship with Jesus? How does your parish help you grow as a disciple? So the information we get from this will be invaluable. If you stop and think about it, if you asked me as a pastor, can you give me like an overview of your parish? I can tell you the number of families we have. I can tell you our sacramental statistics, how many funerals we do, how many baptisms. Right. I can give you a lot of statistical information. What I wouldn't be able to give you is if you said, what does your average parishioner think of Holy Family? I could give you my understanding of what I think, which is probably very different from what they think it is. Right. But the reality is it's going to be so good for us as pastors, as parish leaders, even our lay leadership, our trustees, our parish councils, our finance committees, even people involved in ministry. It's going to be so beneficial for us to understand, what does your parishioner think about your parish and how the parish is helping to form them as a disciple? So that's why we really want 100% participation, if we can, in this survey, because the more voices we hear, the better off we're going to be in helping people to grow in their faith and become more faithful disciples of Jesus.
That's great. Well, thank you for that explanation. That definitely answered some questions that I have.
Oh,
so
good.
I'm sure that'll answer questions for our listeners. So how does this initiative, we as a diocese have a vision of being missionary disciples. So how does this initiative kind of work with that? How does that align with our diocesan vision?
It's a great question. And I think the reality for us is, sometimes in our parishes on pastoral councils, finance committees, we spend a lot of time focusing on, our parishes, focusing on the maintenance piece of it. And this will be one of those things that really gives us an opportunity to focus on mission, in the sense of when we get that objective data from parishioners and they're telling us, this is how the parish helps me grow as a disciple, or these are the areas for growth, we can look at both, the things we're doing well and celebrate them and continue to do them and see how we can enhance them. But we can also go back and say, Our people are telling us that these are some areas for growth. And so how do we focus on those things? Because the whole disciple maker index, I would say, is mission focused. It moves us away a little bit from the maintenance part of what we have to do and moves us into that mission, to that apostolic mission of saying, how do we help people know their faith, live their faith, and go out and share their faith?
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So you talked a little bit about some of the questions that the survey is going to ask, and I did have a chance to actually look it over, which is helpful for me from a communication standpoint to be able to, push it out a little bit more and give people a better understanding of the benefit of the survey. So just to be clear for our listeners, the survey is completely anonymous.
Correct.
It is going to ask for demographic information, but that would be to understand, okay, the young adults in our parish are
That's exactly
seeking
it.
this. And so that we know how to tailor what we're doing to help them.
Correct.
So then some of the other categories that I noticed where they're going to ask about your parish connections, your parish community, and that all, falls into what you were saying about how that data is going to be able to be used once the survey is complete. So the survey opens on Ash Wednesday.
Ash Wednesday.
And then it runs through, I believe, April
I think it's 17th.
14th,
Yeah.
17th.
17th, yeah.
Somewhere in there.
So
It was
just
like
before
5 to 6 weeks.
just before the Triduum. So you have all of Lent to complete it.
Right.
And if they do the online survey, so they have an option, it's online. And then there's another option. Many people don't do online, so there's an option to do a paper survey. The whole point of you give them the whole season of Lent. And so it could be one of their Lenten practices. And the beauty of it is you can go in, you can log in, you can log out. You say, I'm only going to do, a few questions. The whole thing altogether is not meant to be more than 10, 15 minutes.
Right.
But if somebody wanted to spend some time and say, well, I just want to stop here and think about it, they can log out, they can go back in and complete the survey. I mean, you could use it for really a Lenten kind of guide if they wanted to.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, it seems so fitting that Lent would be a time for us to do this, because Lent is a time where we're reflecting.
Well, that's it,
and we're looking at ways that we want to grow in our faith. And, yes, there's the common practice of giving something up during Lent, but there's also the idea of during Lent maybe take on something new, like challenge yourself. Yeah. And so, I think those do go hand in hand really well.
Right.
So,
and I think the beauty of it, for anyone who's thinking about, should I fill out this survey? I think they should really think about the fact that they're going to give their parish some valuable information that's going to help the parish now, when we get that information back, and it's going to help the parish going forward and help us to be stronger, more viable communities that can really articulate that mission and help people go forth and live out that mission. So I think if they're thinking, should I do this? They should, because we need that information.
Right. Absolutely. That was another thought that I had was, for people who are like, oh, I don't really know that I want to spend the time doing it. I'm really busy. Families that have a bunch of kids that are, they're running them around all over the place. And so it's nice to know that you can break it up. You don't have to do it all in one sitting. Right. But also I think that some people might think, well, I don't really know where I am in my faith journey, so I can't answer those questions. But, it sounds like, and just from seeing the questions, that even if you're not really sure where you're at, or you don't feel confident in where you're at, that the answers to these questions are still going to be helpful, and maybe it'll help the individual be more reflective of where they're at and be able to figure out, okay, well, no, this is really where I feel I am, or this is what I'm seeking, or this is what I want more of.
Right.
So it is a really great reflective opportunity.
Well, that's it, and it's going to help them too. So as much as it helps the pastoral leadership of the parish, priests and lay leadership, it's really going to help them in their own discipleship. It's always good, like you said, to step back and say, what is my discipleship all about? What's my relationship with Jesus about? What's going on? And I think this helps them to do that. And the questions, the answers are, strongly agree to strongly disagree. So they're on that spectrum. So it's not that difficult to come up with it, but it does give them the opportunity to be reflective and say, what's my relationship like with Jesus?
Right.
And then how is that played out within the context of a parish family?
Right. And then I saw too in the questions, there are questions for parents to reflect on their child's catechesis.
Correct. Yeah.
Where their child is at in their faith formation process. And my understanding too is that we're encouraging children to participate in the survey with parental permission, of course. But I think that that's also really great, because how often do we ask the young people for their feedback? It's like we usually wait until they're a lot older, but there's
right, yeah,
not really,
exactly.
we're not restricting this to any
Right.
age group.
Yeah, so anybody is open to answering the questions, and I think that's exactly it. Is it'll probably be one of the first times that we've been able to solicit feedback from people across, the whole area, from young to old. We can get feedback from everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
it really
great.
is going to be so beneficial.
Yeah.
I think for those taking the survey and for those of us who, get the opportunity to study it and say, how do we move with this? How do we go forward now?
Right.
I think it's going to be beneficial for everyone. And I think it comes off however many listening sessions that Bishop Lucia and Sister Katie completed and throughout the diocese, going around and listening to people. This is an opportunity for us to listen to what the people have to say about their formation in the faith, their discipleship, their relationship with Jesus, and also their parish. And like I said, we have great data already. We have, we can ask and get the data so quickly, but we don't have a lot of this data.
Right.
The data that deals with, somebody's personal relationship with Jesus and how that's carried out. They were saying, Catholic Leadership Institute was saying, you might ask a pastor, what are the strengths and weaknesses of your parish? And maybe a pastor can rattle them right off the top of his head.
Right.
But this shows many pastors and even bishops what you thought was a leadership or quality of the diocese or one of the great characteristics of your diocese or parish. Maybe the people have a different opinion.
Right.
And so what you thought maybe was a weakness, they're seeing as a strength. And what you thought as a strength maybe might be one of your weaknesses.
Right.
So to have that raw data is just going to help us tremendously.
Yeah. And so with the survey concludes before Easter, they will compile all of that data, and then it'll be given to the parishes sometime between June and July, is my understanding. So is there a plan for how that information is supposed to be utilized afterwards? Like, what follow-up, I guess,
Correct,
could parishioners expect once the results are in?
Right. So basically what they'll do is they'll compile all the data. They'll give it to us. And we have an annual clergy convocation in September. And that's where the bulk of the data will be shared, and then the follow-up steps. So the hope is, in the follow-up steps is, for priests, because we have to fill out our own survey pertaining to priests. So there'll be a growth plan for us. But also, what's the plan now for your parish? So you've been given all this data, and it's going to be great data, as we discussed. What do you do with it now?
Right.
And so the hope is you would take this to your leadership committees, your pastoral council, finance committees, other groups in the parish, share this data, and then you look at, here's where our strengths and our weaknesses, how can we take these opportunities now to continue to move forward with our strengths, but also looking at our areas for growth and saying, how can we change this and help people move forward? So I think across the whole, the whole spectrum of parish life and ministry, this data is going to help us. If we're doing well in one area, great, we continue that and keep moving forward with it. But if we're doing poorly in another area, or people identify that this could be an area for change, then I think it's an opportunity to really address it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
And I think that's the whole point of surveys is
Yeah.
there's no sense in doing them if you're not going to take what you've learned from them.
Right, if you're not going
and
to utilize
say,
the data.
how are we going to go forward, right?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. No, that's great. So before we wrap up, beyond the survey, as a pastor, how do you feel that parishioners can actively participate in helping their parishes be vibrant and thriving communities of faith and discipleship?
So I think a lot of times people will look to us as pastors, and maybe the feeling is, we're the ones who are supposed to do everything. And so we let the priest handle this, or the priest move forward with this. I always tell people, I can't do it all. And we need coworkers. And I need a lot of coworkers to help carry out the work of bringing Jesus to so many people. I mean, we live in a world that so desperately needs to experience Jesus.
Yeah.
And if the feeling is, however many pastors we have in the diocese, which is not that many anymore.
No.
If the feeling is it's just up to us, we can't do it.
Right.
So we need the help of committed lay people who are going to say, I'm going to step up and do whatever it takes to make sure that we can continue this mission of going forth, as Jesus said, and proclaiming the good news and just giving witness to Christ in so many different ways. So I think the beauty of it is it's something that belongs to everybody and not just a select few. And I think if we can communicate that to people and say, it's my mission, but it's our mission. It's my mission, it's your mission, it's our mission to make sure that we continue the mission of Jesus and bring it forward. Yeah. So that's always been my hope, is that, everywhere I go is to help create coworkers. So the burden is not just on me or,
Right.
Another priest or a deacon or religious brothers and sisters. It's on all of us. And that's the hope. And I think the reality is, we love our faith.
Right.
And we have so many people that come in and out of our churches. They love their faith. And we get to see that. It's one of the joys of ministry, is seeing how people love their faith, how they live out their faith. But to get them to do that every day with their family, their friends, their coworkers, and all the circles that they touch, I think we can have a tremendous impact, not just here in this area, but beyond. So that would be my encouragement, is we need you.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you again so
Oh,
much
you're welcome. Yeah,
for
my
coming on
pleasure.
and talking about this. And to our listeners, we're going to have more information about the survey as we get closer to Lent. Again, that will launch. This episode comes out the week before, so it'll be Ash Wednesday that the survey opens for every parish. We'll have information on the diocesan website. I'm sure a lot of parishes are putting information on their websites. So just keep an eye on your parish bulletins, check the diocesan social media and website. And if you have any questions, don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. So.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. And we will see you all next week.